An ear of sweet corn begins changing before the basket reaches the porch. Pick it at breakfast, leave it in July heat while another chore gets done, and you may serve something different by supper. It still looks like corn. The husk is green, the rows are full, and the kettle is ready. Inside those kernels, though, some sweetness has already begun moving toward starch. Old corn work followed two very different kinds of time. One crop could mature and dry for meal, feed, seed, or crib storage. Tender sweet corn was picked in the milk stage and needed to be eaten, cooled, or processed promptly. Put both into one nostalgic picture, and it seems as if every ear could wait. It could not. So the first useful answer is to know which corn you have before deciding how long it can sit. West Virginia University describes milk stage sweet corn as full, smooth kernels that release milky liquid when punctured. That stage lasts less than a week, and hot weather moves it along faster. After the ear is picked, summer warmth keeps working against the tender sweetness people wanted at the table. Penn State Extension advises canning or freezing sweet corn within 6 hours of harvest for the best result. That does not mean every ear becomes worthless when a clock strikes 6 hours. It shows how narrow the quality window can be. I want to ask more than how mountain families stored corn. What changed inside an ear after it left the stalk? And how did a household decide whether that ear belonged at supper, in the freezer, in a tested canning process, in the dryer, or still maturing in the field? We will carry one ear from the row to the table. We will open the husk, find the milk stage, follow the change from sugar toward starch, and separate the hurry of sweet corn from the long keeping of dry corn. First, we have to know when to pick. Corn does not announce readiness with one perfect sign. The silks dry and turn brown. The ear feels full inside a green husk. Kernels reach the tip. When a kernel is punctured at the right stage, its liquid looks milky. Clear liquid suggests the ear is still immature. A dry, doughy kernel has moved beyond the tender stage. An experienced gardener may judge much of that through the husk. The rest of us learn by checking carefully and checking often as harvest gets close. That attention matters because the milk stage is brief. West Virginia University says it lasts less than a week, and heat can hurry maturity. A row that was not ready Monday may call the whole household by Thursday. Take one ear in both hands. The husk is green. The silk has browned. The kernels are plump, and a checked kernel releases milky juice. This is sweet corn ready for the kitchen. Now put it beside a mature dry ear meant for meal or seed. That ear belongs to another harvest plan. Its kernels are allowed to harden and dry. Later, it can move into a suitable corn crib or another dry storage system before milling or use. Corn was a staple crop in documented Cades Cove farming. A National Register record describes the corn crib as an important structure, with stored corn available to the house or barn and hauled to the mill as needed. That tells us something real about mature dry corn. Look at the crib as a whole before thinking about the kernels inside. Its job was to help mature corn stay dry and ventilated until it was needed. Raised floors, openings between slats, and a narrow body helped air move and helped separate the crop from ground moisture. Designs varied by place and period, but the purpose was easy to recognize. This was storage built around dry corn, not a cool room meant to hold tender ears at the milk stage. It does not mean tender sweet corn could sit in a crib and keep its breakfast flavor. The word corn holds many foods. Sweet corn, dent corn, flour corn, flint corn, and popcorn do not share the same purpose or harvest stage. A heritage dent corn grown for meal is not a failed ear of sweet corn. A tender ear picked young is not ready for long dry storage. The crop had to be assigned to its purpose. Planting dates could help with the workload. Successive planting spread sweet corn harvest over several weeks. Without that spacing, many ears might reach the milk stage together. One stretch of hot weather could turn a pleasant row into a short deadline. Once the ear comes off the stalk, temperature becomes part of the decision. An ear is still alive after you pick it. Its tissues continue to respire and enzymes keep working. In traditional sugary sweet corn types, sugar changes to starch quickly after harvest. Newer sugar-enhanced and super sweet types may hold sweetness longer. No honest rule gives every variety the exact same schedule. The direction of change still matters. Warmth speeds the loss of fresh quality. West Virginia University advises eating, processing, or refrigerating sweet corn as soon as possible. When it must wait, refrigerate it promptly. Cold slows the change. It does not turn yesterday's ear back into the one picked at dawn. The variety changes how urgently that decline is noticed. Traditional sugary corn can lose its eating quality quickly because its sugar moves towards starch. Sugar-enhanced and super sweet types were bred to hold sweetness longer. That gives a modern gardener more room than some older varieties allowed, but it does not remove the need for shade, prompt cooling, and a plan. The label on the seed packet can be part of the preservation record because it helps explain what happened after picking. That is why a basket in the sun is more than a pretty harvest picture. The center ears hold heat. Husks slow cooling. The work table may already be warm. Every delay spends some of the quality the garden produced. The response is practical. Harvest during the cooler part of the day when possible. Move the ears out of the sun. Do not pick far more than the kitchen can handle. Get the corn to the meal, refrigerator, or chosen preservation process without losing half the day to other chores. Now open the ear, pull back the husk, strip away the silk, look for damage, mold, and spoilage. Sound tender corn can go to supper or into a current preservation method. Questionable produce does not become useful because time is short. For freezing, blanching does more than warm the kernels. Current guidance uses that heat to stop enzyme reactions that would continue changing quality during frozen storage. The exact time depends on the product, including whether the corn is on the cob or cut, and the size of whole ears. Keep the tested directions beside the pot. Corn on the cob behaves differently from kernels cut away. The dense cob takes longer to heat, cool, freeze, and reheat. National Center guidance notes that frozen corn on the cob can become more waterlogged and soft. One sound ear gives you several choices. Eat it fresh. Freeze kernels under tested directions. Freeze the whole ear under the proper directions if that later texture suits you. Use tested drying guidance for a different stored ingredient. Or Choose a tested pressure canning process for plain corn. The ear cannot wait indefinitely and remain the same. Preservation does not stop sweet corn at one perfect moment. It gives the harvest another kind of usefulness. Fresh corn keeps the tender bite and immediate sweetness, but only briefly. Frozen kernels can keep good flavor for later cooking, though the texture is not exactly like an ear eaten beside the roe. Dried corn becomes small, hard, and concentrated, ready for use under tested guidance. Pressure canned corn becomes a shelf-stable cooked product when the current tested procedure is followed. Those routes give the kitchen different ingredients. Plain corn is a low-acid vegetable. Shelf-stable home canning requires a tested pressure canning process. A boiling water canner is not the correct method for plain corn. Corn also has plenty of starch. It can expand during canning, which is why tested guidance calls for loose packing and the specified headspace. Pressing extra kernels into the jar changes the density and the heat path the process assumes. Cream-style corn needs special attention too. Its density affects heat movement, and tested guidance limits the jar sizes used. A favorite kettle method cannot supply a safe processing schedule from memory. I am not going to recite process times because the safe directions depend on the exact product, jar, canner type, altitude, and current tested source. Choose the procedure first and follow it without improvising. Freezing has its own order. Select the corn at the right stage, prepare it, blanch as directed, cool it, drain it, package it in suitable freezer containers, and freeze it promptly. Skipping the blanch because the kernels already feel cold misses the reason for the heat step. Drying has another order and another finished texture. It is not a shortcut around preparation. Select, treat, dry, and store the corn according to current guidance. At the work table, begin with a meal in mind. Soup corn, skillet corn, dried kernels, and corn on the cob do not call for the same choice. A household that planned backward from its meals spent less labor on food nobody wanted later. The equipment in a modern freezer is different from an old corn table. The need to decide before quality slips away remains familiar. Suppose the roe will be ready tomorrow. Do not start by picking every ear. Start by checking your time and deciding where the corn is going. How much will be eaten fresh? Which tested preservation method will you use? Is there room in the freezer? Is the pressure canner ready, if that is the chosen route? Do you have containers, cooling water, fuel, clean work surfaces, and enough help to finish what you pick? Read the complete directions before harvest. If the method requires equipment you do not have, choose another tested route. If maturity allows, leave suitable ears for the next picking. The roe creates a deadline, but it does not require a careless decision. Pick in the cooler hours when you can. Move the basket into shade. Refrigerate promptly if processing must wait. Work in batches small enough to keep moving. If several people are working, give each one a job that keeps the corn moving forward. One person can husk, another can remove silk and inspect, and another can manage the next tested step. If only one person is working, smaller batches matter even more. Leave the rest shaded or refrigerated rather than opening every ear and surrounding yourself with a job too large to finish well. Husking and silking make a large pile in a hurry. Give the table a direction. Unhusked ears enter at one end. Clean, inspected ears move forward. Cobs, husks, and silk leave the food path. The pot, cooling water, cutting board, containers, and labels each need a place. Keep the cutting work safe. A cob can roll and a knife can slip. Use a stable board and keep hands out of the blade's path. Label finished packages or jars with the product, date, tested source, and useful batch information. If you grew the corn, note the variety. That may explain why one batch held sweetness or texture better than another. Notice what the household uses. If nobody wanted the frozen cobs, but every bag of cut kernels disappeared by spring, let next year's planting and preserving plan listen. Succession planting can spread the work in another season. West Virginia University recommends staggered plantings for a continuing summer supply. Weather may still bunch the harvest, but planting dates can keep every row from reaching the milk stage on one morning. The best household system is not a contest in exhaustion. It fits the field, available hands, equipment, and appetite as closely as circumstances allow. A manageable batch finished promptly protects more quality than an enormous basket left warm while the kitchen falls behind. A corn crib and a supper basket tell different stories about time. The crib held mature dry corn with air moving around it, corn intended for later milling, feed, seed, or another household use. The basket held milk stage ears, tender and sweet for a short while. Both belong to Appalachian household life. Mixing them together makes the past look easier and the old knowledge less exact than it was. People had to know which crop could stand in the field, which could dry in storage, and which needed to come straight into the kitchen. They watched silk, kernels, weather, and appetite. They learned what the meal required and what supper required. Those were different answers. Sweet corn teaches a plain lesson. Abundance can still be perishable. A full row does not pause because the household is tired. Today we have refrigeration, newer sweet corn varieties, tested preservation directions, and freezers earlier kitchens did not have. The old attention to timing is still useful. Check the milk stage, keep the ears cool, match the harvest to what you can finish. Use the correct current method for freezing, drying, or pressure canning. Let dry grain corn follow the separate path it was grown for. The old wisdom was knowing which corn had months and which corn had hours. What did corn day look like in your household? Did you eat it beside the garden, cut kernels at a long table, fill freezer bags, carry dry corn to a meal, or feed the cobs to the stove? Tell me the part you remember. These late summer stories began with tomatoes on the table, moved to cucumbers in the crock, and ended here at the corn row. Each time the garden gave the household a short window and asked somebody to notice. Until next time, take good care of the harvest in front of you and take good care of yourself.